Hello, everyone, and happy Fearless Friday and happy Kwanzaa. Guys, Habari Gani. And we know that today's response should be Nia. Today is the fifth day of Kwanzaa, and we are celebrating the principle Nia, right? The Nguzo Saba principle Nia. We know there are 7 principles to Kwanzaa, so we've been learning these last 4 days, and so we've already talked about 4 of them, right? We talked about Umoja. Did I say it right?
Yep.
Umoja. We talked about not Kujichagulia, self-determination first. That self-determination
That
is
was that was Tuesday.
that was Tuesday. And then I had them and I'm forgetting them. You Principal Kafele help me out.
Yeah. So day number 3 was Ujima.
What
And
was one? One was I was right.
Umoja.
And
Umoja.
two was
Yeah, Kujichagulia, self-determination, and then Ujima, collective work and
oh
responsibility.
yesterday. That's why I was yesterday
Yeah,
was the last one we talked about. I'm forgetting about yesterday.
yeah.
Ujama. Ujama.
Ujama.
Ujama. And then today we know is Nia, right? Our
That's it.
fifth principle. We have 2 more days to go with our 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And so we are super, super excited to be here to continue this most needed conversation. So as you guys come in, feel free to say hello and let us know where you are, where you're hailing from, and just share some of those things that you've gotten from the first 4 viewings and what you hope to learn or anything that you want to ask us or for us to comment or dig deeper into. And so it has been I was speaking with a colleague today. It has been a tremendous learning experience for me. I've gone through Kwanzaa before. I've even presented a Kwanzaa program, but
Mm.
never had it meant so much to me until now. It is so much more than just some words, right? Or this little holiday, quote unquote, that we do for 7 days, put our candles up and our display up, and then we wait for 300 and something days and for us to do it again. And
Yeah.
so this has really, really been awesome, awesome conversation. And so again, we're going to give you guys an opportunity to come on in so we can continue our conversation. And
Bargani.
Nia, Miss Vicky, and thank you. It is rich and meaningful.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was speaking to my colleague, Principal Kafele, and he said he was really challenging me today. He was making me be real, real like thought provoking about it. And he asked a question, and I said that I was going to pose it to our audience. He is much like Dr. Barfield. He's all about the youth and how are we making sure that this is transcending down,
Yeah.
to our young people. And I explained to him that we spoke a little bit about, we have been very um bad about passing down the baton.
Yeah.
And I explained that how we pass down a baton if we don't understand. And so it's impossible for me to give you something that I don't understand myself. And so now, anytime that I have a conversation about Kwanzaa, it's going to mean so much more. Hello, another Nova Scotian. I wanted to,
Yeah.
our girl down there. How are you, Miss Jennifer? How are you, Nia? And so, he was really really making me think about that. He was like, are we just sayers of Kwanzaa or are we truly doers of the different concepts?
Yeah. Let me speak to that, and I'll probably repeat it once we get deeper into the discussion, since we're still in intro, but we talk and people are chiming in. Um Kwanzaa, and see, like right now, we're having discussion these 7 days virtually about Kwanzaa, and we've got people that tune in. And then if you go to a program, depending on the format of that program, it may be just a lot of different things happening, like dancers and drummers and recitals and things of that nature. But in the home, to respond to your conversation you had earlier directly, it's very different. I'll give you 2 examples in terms of my home, which would be common for a lot of homes that are serious about Kwanzaa. Not my home this year, but when my kids were growing up. to be just to be brutally honest.
Mhm.
Let's say it's Nia Day today. So the family would come together, pour libations, read a libation statement, and then engage and light the candles, and then engage in a discussion about Nia. But the focus of the discussion is the young people. And I'm talking about one's family now, in one's household. So now we're having a discussion, and hypothetical questions might be, what is Nia? What does purpose mean to you? And giving the children the opportunity to answer that question. Then, secondly, just as I did with the book I showed you the other day, let me get it out here, with Umoja, the one that my students wrote, and we got the questions right on the cover. Why is Umoja, or in this case Nia, is Nia important to you? And now it's not about the adults; it's about the children giving their thoughts, giving their reflections on what purpose, what Nia is. And then the second one, how will I make Nia more so a part of me?
Yes.
Right. So now it meaning self-reflectively, meaning the child. So now the children have an opportunity to think deeply, reflect on who they are right now in real time, but reflect on moving forward. How can I make Nia more so, or incorporate it more so into who I am as an individual? And then that's a whole discussion. It's a whole give and take, back and forth between the adult and the child, but it's child centered. And
Yeah.
then lastly, and when I say lastly, I don't mean that these are some official questions. These are just questions that I typically use with my students and my children here at home. How will I make Nia work in my community? Like, what will be my role in taking Nia? And typically a child's community is either neighborhood or school, one or
Yes.
the other. So how will I take Nia and make it something in my community? And as a part B to that, how will I embody Nia? Right.
Yes.
So that's a whole student or child-centered conversation. But then let's take it further. And I guess we in it now, but I still may repeat this. The 6th day of Kwanzaa, which would be tomorrow, the Karamu, spelled Karuma. That means feast. And that's when everybody comes together. And instead of the New Year's Eve celebration, everybody comes
Now, Principal
together.
Kafele, is that tomorrow or is that Sunday? Karamu. Is
It,
Kumba?
it would be New Year's, the equivalent of New Year's Eve.
Okay.
Kaumba is Sunday.
It's Sunday.
This
Okay.
this 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 would be. I mean, I'm sorry. Kaumba is tomorrow, the
Yeah.
6th day, and
Okay.
Imani is Sunday.
Okay.
But within that Kaumba is the Karamu, which is spelled. It looks like Karamu, right? And that's the feast. That's when the community comes together. People are bringing food. There is dancing. There is drumming in terms of African dance, and it's just a festive occasion. But once again, that's student centered. So what we did, and this is just to go back to your conversation, what we did as a family, and I'm talking now extended family, my side and my wife's side, every year we would bring the family to get the two extended families together under one roof. And if you may have seen a old photo of me on my Facebook page earlier this week, where I'm holding a cup, which is called the Unity Cup in Kiswahili, Kakombe Cha Umoja. And I'm holding this cup. I'm a lot younger. I'm about, I don't know, 20, 30, 20, 25 years younger. And that was me in that setting. And I mean, this thing was just dynamite for us, because I'm literally teaching Kwanzaa there, because there's folks that don't know it. But then we do this community or family goal setting that we would do every year. And each of us would state our goal going into the next year. Then we would write the goal, write the plan, and then we put it together somewhere and just keep safeguard it for the entire year, and come back to it the next year. And the focus again is on the children, because we had a lot of them in the room. and come back to it next year to see how close we came to either achieving the goal or exceeding the goal, or why did we fall short on the goal.
Mhm.
So all of that being that child focused approach, that
And
student.
being intentional though, that's you're being intentional and you're being
Yeah,
you're not just doing it for a day. And I'm so glad you said that. That's something that you do in your home. Because when he asked me, I explained to him, I mean, we never discussed Kwanzaa in my home. I didn't hear a Kwanzaa about Kwanzaa until I went out to college. And so there was nothing for me to say how it was passed down to children in my home. Of course, with my kids, we're talking about Kwanzaa. Of course, they've been at home listening to us talk about it. And so we've been having those conversations, but we have those types of conversations year round to, we know that everyone doesn't practice what they say.
yeah,
They're not doers of their own words, they're sayers. And so I think, when he asked me that question, I was like, our goal is to share this information with educators and parents, right?
yeah,
Our community, and hope that they are taking it and sharing it with their children. We're not giving it per se to the youth, but we're giving it to the adults so they have a true understanding of it. And
yep,
maybe it hits a little differently after this conversation. And this is something that's going to be every year now. It's the inaugural, but we know this is going to be a tradition of Black Educators Rock. And so,
yeah. And
yeah.
I got two more points for you. And let me say to the folks out there, hit that share button for us, folks. Let them know we're here. It's just a little after 8 o'clock, and we ready to get rolling. We're in the conversation, but we just didn't get to purpose yet. But we're into our Kwanzaa conversation. So Dr. Chester was talking about a conversation that she had with someone who was inquiring about the role of children and how do we ensure that children are taking Kwanzaa and running with it, right? So we're engaged in that conversation. But I want to throw these two pieces at you. There are these symbols in Kwanzaa. And so when you have your Kwanzaa display set up, one of the symbols is called muhindi. And muhindi translates into corn. So on the Kwanzaa display, you'll have ears of corn
Mhm.
consistent with the number of children in one's household. So we always had 3 ears of corn on our display. So now with those 3 ears of corn and symbolizing the children, then once again there's that focus on the children within the discussion. But then the other component as it relates to children is the zawadi. And the zawadi is Kiswahili for the gifts. And in Kwanzaa, you do exchange gifts, but they're not the commercialized gifts that we exchange during Christmas. It's typically something cultural, or most importantly, a book, right? So I can remember for years, even folks, that maybe wouldn't read the book I bought, but for years I was just buying folks books. This, and I wasn't buying them anything for Christmas, I might add, right? It was a Kwanzaa gift or a holiday gift, but it had, was given in the holiday, in the Kwanzaa spirit. And if you read it, you read it. If not, then you don't. But that's the kind of gifts that I was giving people. So now, once again, with the children, with the just the preponderance of children's books, black children's books that are out there, then you can buy those kinds of books and engage in all sorts of discussion around the content of the book, for children again. So there's so that child component is really salient, as it relates to Kwanzaa. There's everything about it. The children are right there.
Yes, and we have to make sure, like you said, we're inclusive of it, where they're not thinking it's just this ceremony. We light these candles, we have this display, and we put it up, but making sure it is translating to, true action. I loved what you said. You guys write it down, you come back. Like we said at the Rock Conference, we're going to be doing a mid-year check-in of Kwanzaa. How have you been intentionally applying the 7 principles
Yeah,
of Kwanzaa?
yeah,
What do those look like in your daily walk? Right? What does unity look like for you? How did you make sure you, as an African American, you, as someone in the Black family, the Black community, the Black culture, did you make sure that you were making sure that you were showing unity? We talked that night just about, can we just start back acknowledging one another?
yeah,
Right? I mean, that within itself is powerful. Just acknowledging one another. How are you showing self-determination?
yeah.
How is that manifesting in your daily walk? how are you showing collective works? How are you showing collective works, right? How are you showing that you work with community, that you're there with your family, with your community? How are you showing cooperative economics, right? And
That's right.
last night, Principal Kafele, I know your phone died, and one thing that we said is when we think about that definition of cooperative economics, it may not return to you in money, right?
Yeah,
When he gave that definition, it may return to you in
that's right.
intellectual capacity or an emotional capacity. And we have gotten so caught up on that Eurocentric system that everything is about dollars, money, money, money.
Yeah,
And so we have to make sure that each one of us is truly practicing these things with no expectation, but with the understanding that I am because we are. We
that's right.
are because I am, and that the universe is going to return it back to us tenfold.
Yeah. See, you think about. I had mentioned the last time I was on just the abundance of black-owned bookstores across the country, and I wrote about it on Ujamaa Day. That was my theme, and so I'm thinking about young me in my early 20s, and just jumping on the subway, riding the A train up to Harlem from down from lower from Manhattan, lower Manhattan, and going to Liberation Bookstore and buying, which is now on, it used to be called Lenox Avenue, now it's Malcolm X Boulevard, and just buying all these books every weekend. And like you just said, and like you all discussed last night, I'm not getting any money out of that. The proprietor is, right, and that's what keeps the doors open. So those of us that would patronize the store, that now she can keep the doors open, because ultimately she had to close it. It's not, it doesn't exist anymore. But in turn, we get this knowledge that you can't get every place. So to your point, it's not necessarily a even dollar exchange, but it's the wealth of information that I attain that allowed me to evolve. And that's what price that's precisely what I did. I evolved in that period, say from starting in 1984, because I'm frequenting that store, among others, primarily that one though. So it's so important because, see, once, going back to Ujamaa, once we stopped frequenting that store, it went out of business. Now, the excuse is the internet, because different places started selling some of the same books, not all of the same books, but some of the same books. And it was very convenient for someone to go on their computer and buy books. And the retailer, particularly the black retailer, couldn't compete with that. So all those stores shut down.
Well, it's when I talked about even last night, just being intentional and being, you may have to wait a few more days to get it, or it may be a few more steps because you got to actually
Yeah,
get in your car and drive to the bookstore. But we have to start being more intentional about, us spending our dollars within our communities. At the end of our um broadcast last night, I shared a very, very, very poignant YouTube video, and I hope people got a chance to watch that, just about how intentional they were about diverting our black dollars away from us,
yeah,
right? Because we have to understand how valuable they are, and understand that, again, if we value each other, we value ourselves. There's no way that we don't want to spend those dollars within our own communities. There's
yeah,
no way not just dollars though, guys. It's about your energies. It's about your efforts and your talents and your treasures and your skill sets, which
yeah,
is what we're talking about tonight with Nia, right? With purpose. We're talking about those things. And I am so ready to get into this conversation, because of course, and I'm loving how they just go right into the next one. And so before we start talking, I'm going to read my post, and then Principal Kafele, I want you to summarize your post, and then we're going to have that conversation.
yeah,
So we know that, again, today is the 5th day. It is Nia, of the 7 in Nguzo Saba. And we know that Dr. Karanga is who defined Nia. He defined Nia in the collective, right? But Principal Kafele and I both felt the same way. We both stated that. But before you can get to the collective, the individual, for me, must be grounded and centered. In order for our collective efforts to contribute to building and developing our communities, your purpose must be known, right? We know that when you spell your, our is in your. So you have to know you first, right? You have to know your purpose first. Your purpose is your why. If you know your why, you can figure out your how. Any endeavor, business, or organization that you are a part of should be tied back to your purpose. If not, why are you a part of it or involved with it? Purpose will drive you on the days you don't feel like it. Purpose will keep you going when you're upset with the boss or the leader or you're frustrated. Purpose will make it all worth it. So, in the spirit of Nia, be sure to be intentional about determining, developing, and walking first in your purpose so that we can contribute to the collective.
I love it. I love it. I'm the same way as you are. Good evening there. I'm the East Orange. Oh wait. That's one of my former students. Oh, one of your students, East
She
Orange.
said she still
Sure.
has a book you published in fifth grade. He showed that to us on one
You
of the
must.
nights he was on. I don't think it was the first night. I think it was the second night.
So I don't know which one you have, but I get Miss Whitney Marie. I guess you got one of these books here that we had. Which way am I going here? Yeah. So good to see you. Good to see you. I tell folks all the time, man. I tell leaders all the time. I say, when your former students find you years later, look you up, you must have been doing something right. Because I've never looked up any of my old teachers or principals. Never. So
That's
they
two of
so
us.
except one. I forgot, except one. And as a matter of fact, I'm gonna have him on my platform a little bit later. But anyway, yeah. So good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, I'm the same way, Dr. Chester. It's hard for me to look at the collective purpose when we haven't examined the internal, the individual sense of purpose. I don't know how one contributes to a collective purpose when one does not possess the personal purpose. And you and I both know that there are millions of people out here in the world that do not have a purpose for living. They're
Yes.
existing, but they
Yes.
haven't given their life a definition. And
Yes.
that definition matters. But let me just do justice to the actual definition from Karenga. I'm using this book here, folks. I don't even know if this is available anymore. The African American holiday of Kwanzaa, because as you see, it's not that thick. You see the spine. Dr. Karenga went on and wrote a very thick one. And but I tend to use these thinner ones. Those of you that may know my work, I write thin books because I know that folks are always looking for something that they can read quickly but get a lot of information from. So I like to use the thin one. So he said here, Nia, to make our collective vocation. Let me see what Whitney said here. Put that
She
back for me.
said she said that you had a very big impact, a heavy impact on her teaching career.
Oh, Whitney, I'm putting a comment where you teach. Either that or get in touch with me, inbox me, right? Just inbox me so we could communicate. I'd love to hear what you're doing. That's important. And as I do with all my former students that teach, I mail out the books I wrote, right? So all the books I wrote for teachers, I just send them to you for free. You just give me your address and I send them right to you. So inbox me at Principal Kafele. So he said, and you got it on the screen, to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. And I always put an emphasis on when he says traditional greatness, because then that opens up a whole can of worms in terms of what does that mean, right? So therefore, what is our story? Who are we? Because we can't really know what traditional greatness is if we don't know what that historical greatness is all about. So there's so much reading that has to be done toward making this collective, this community wide, nation wide, race wide definition of purpose become reality. Um, just today, it was interesting. It's just an observation. I had written that I was going to be saying Happy Kwanzaa to every Black person that I come across, and I've been doing a lot of that. Most of the time, I see the folks in the gym because that's where I am publicly this week. But from a distance, I just notice folks that just have no interest in eye contact, all that kind of thing. And when you're rooted and grounded, I appreciate you, Jamia. When you're rooted and grounded in your history, in your culture, it's hard to be in the presence of Black folks, even Black folks who are not necessarily doing the right thing. It's hard to be in the presence of Black folks and to ignore them. It's hard because you're so rooted and grounded in who you are. I can honestly say that when I walk past Black folks and not speak because I know that they don't want to speak to me, there's a feeling of guilt.
Yeah, it
Right?
hurts. It
Like,
kind of
yeah,
hurts
yeah.
your feelings.
It's
Yeah.
like, I should be saying hi, but I'm at a point where sometimes I just, you see the body language and you say, let me keep moving on this one. But other times I say, no, I'm gonna make you speak. And I'll do, I'm not gonna do that to a woman because that's a whole different
Right.
dynamic. But when it's a brother, no, there's a lot of times I'm like, you speaking to me. Right? I'm gonna make you speak. Even if you get mad and threaten me and all that kind of stuff, I'm gonna make you speak, right? And it'll take 1 second of your life, and you will probably never see me in life again. But that's the mindset. So let's jump into it a little, and you all out there in StreamYard land, Facebook Live land, in your case, chime in, holla at us. Let us know what you're feeling as it relates to purpose. I'm gonna put a question out there. I just want to ask you, Dr. Chester, and then others can chime in on the same thing. Um, you obviously have a purpose with your life, right? It's those of us who know you do a lot of things, and when you get into something, you're very serious about it, whether it be this Black Educators Rock, whether it be this platform this week, right? Because here we are. You called us the other day, and here we are. Whether it be your real estate career, whether it be your sorority, and I can go on and on. So I want to ask you the question: What's driving all that? Where is it coming from? What is your purpose?
Oh gosh, Principal Kafele. And y'all, he didn't let me know he was going to be
Nah,
asking me these
I never
questions.
do. Some of my guests on my
That's what I love
platform,
the best. I
some
am
of my
all about
guests say, send me
I'm
the
all about
question.
organic conversation.
Yeah, I don't send
I'm
no
the same way.
questions.
I don't like all that scripted stuff. Send me questions. I am the same way. So I know what I've discovered in life is that my purpose is to gather information, right, and share it. I'm a teacher. No, whatever level, wherever I am, I'm going to be teaching. I'm going to be anything that I learn, I want to share it. That is my passion and my purpose, as well as I have come to realize that I am a convener. I am a convener of people. I am a person who believes in that I'm supposed to be that person that makes sure that we're all connected. And so those two purposes, no matter what space I go into, like you said, I wear a lot of hats, but those are the two things that I always do, no matter what space I go into. I'm going to first. I'm going to be. I'm a learner. I'm an avid learner, and so anything that I learn, though, I want to share. And
Yeah,
so I teach. And so here it is. If I learn it, you're going to know it. Someone else is going to know about it because I do believe in sharing anything that I have.
yeah,
And I am a person who just believes in the collective. And so those three things are my purpose: learning, teaching, and sharing, and convening people together, making sure that we are all connected. And so, like you said, in real estate, I got in real estate. I became a real estate instructor. I became a real
mm,
estate broker. I'm over people because it's all about me always helping people to improve, people to be better. And if I be completely transparent, I think a lot of that comes from me not getting those things in my life. So I understand what it is to not have, not know, and not have anyone that's giving you that kind of information, that's giving you any type of resources. And so I've always been the person that wanted to be the opposite of that. So
yeah.
that is for me. You have to answer that same question.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting though what you said because when I was seeking out a name, and I know there are probably people on here live or who will see this later. They're like, "What do you mean by that?" You know, I think it should be some. No, it shouldn't be obvious because my son is named Baruti Kafele, and he was born with that name, but I wasn't, right. So when I was seeking out a name that spoke to, I wanted a name that spoke to who I am and where I was going. That was the objective. Who am I and where am I going? So Burundi, which comes from Botswana, the language is called Tswana, and it means teacher. That was the one that grabbed my attention. But there was this other name that was more so Arabic, and but I loved it, and it's pronounced Talib. At the time, I thought it was Talib, but I
Right.
had learned over time that it's pronounced Talib, Talib. And it means, as you just said, it means seeker of knowledge. So I'm at war internally between these two names, Talib, Baruti. Baruti teacher, Talib seeker of knowledge. Like which one really captures my essence? And I think that because Baruti was African, and I wanted to go into this teacher mode in the classroom, I leaned toward that one and ultimately there. But I never got away from that definition for the other one, seeker of knowledge. I wanted to know. And as I always, I think I said it on this platform the other day, I don't want to know everything, right? You know, some people want to know the world. My oldest son is that way, Baruti. He wants to know the world. I don't have an interest in knowing the world and everything that there out there that there is to know. I want to know that which is consistent with my why. And we'll get to the why. But that's really all I want. Just let me know, let me know deeply those things that are consistent with my interests. I think that would be a better word for me to use. And those are the things that I know. It's like when a client invites me to speak on something, and this happened literally this week. They wanted me to speak on something. They said, we're gonna pay you X, Y, and Z. And I said, you know something? I gotta back out of this one. I can't do it. And it wasn't that I can't learn it because it's not until August. That's when the program is. So we in December right now. So I could do the research, but I don't have an interest.
Right.
Right. So I told the person, I said, nah, here's my list of topics. Choose from that. If there's nothing you want, then we'll move on. But she decided, no, we gonna go with what you got in your topics. So I'm saying that to say I can't, I don't even have an interest in learning things that are not consistent with my interest and thereby my why, my purpose. So what is my purpose? In a nutshell, and I have it in the form of a definition: to motivate, to educate, and to empower young people. And then we'll put a dot through their educators, right? Through their teachers, through their leaders, through their counselors, whomever it is that I work with regularly. But at its core, to motivate, educate, and empower young people. That's the work I do. That's what I wake up to. That's what I live for. And thereby I walk in it, I get a lot of compliments from people, man, you doing this and doing that, man, you doing it at this level and all that kind of stuff. I got them on the line today. But my response is always because I'm walking in a narrow lane. And that's why you see me doing what I do. Why, in your eyes I'm shining, right? Because I'm walking in this very narrow lane and I'm not distracted by what's over there. And I'm not distracted by what's over there. I'm not distracted by what's back there. I'm not even distracted by the folks up there in front of me. I'm just trying to get to where they are.
Yes.
But I'm right here. That's it. And that's how I'm able to stay focused and walk in that why.
And I hope you guys are listening because this is what NIA is about. To
Yeah.
make our collective vocation the building and development of our communities, we first must know what is our purpose. And Principal Kafele, that was so big because so many of us are missing it because
Yeah.
we're trying to do too much.
Yeah.
We're trying to be everywhere,
Yeah.
and when people say I wear a lot, I do wear hats. I do wear several hats, and I always tell them all of my hats make sense and they fit. Like for me, the housing situation, that's because my mother was displaced after
Mm.
renting for 27 years.
Mm.
And I realized that I too was a serial renter after obtaining 3 degrees, right?
Mm.
I rented in Tallahassee and I lived there over 20 years because that was all I knew. And so when that happened to my mother, and I was in this place of, oh, well, do I want to go back to a PWI? Because the HBCUs that I were here in Jacksonville didn't have my program at the time. And I was like, I don't want to. My PhD is in sport management. The one university here, Edward Waters, at the time didn't have it. So I decided, because what was happening with my mother, I'm going to get into real estate and I'm going to assist first-time home buyers, because we all should understand that home ownership is possible for everyone.
Yeah.
It made no sense for my mother, my aunts, my cousins, myself. Why are we renting decades? Why are we paying a mortgage, but we're paying someone else's mortgage? And
Yeah.
so that is how I transitioned into real estate. But even when I got into real estate, like I said, I always found myself back to teaching and leading, being the broker and helping people understand the real estate business, etc. And so, took Principal Kafele's point, a lot of y'all you're not in your purpose because you're following other people's purpose. You're comparing and contrasting. That is one thing that I've never done. And I always talk to my agents and anyone that I come about. Stop comparing and contrasting yourself.
Yeah.
Your only competition is you. I wake up every day and try to be better than Doc. I'm not competing with nobody else other than myself.
Yep.
And I'm hoping that the people that I'm imparting, that they actually be better than me.
Yeah.
A lot of times we don't want people to be better than us. But I want my students and people that come across my path, I want to see them elevate beyond me, because that means that that means my gift that God has given me, I'm truly sharing it.
I love it. I love it. See, when people say, I want to do what you do, like yourself, I want to do what you do, Dr. Chester, or they say, I want to do what you do, Principal Kafele. Here's my response to them. Okay, if it's the speaking thing you want to do, you see me doing that, and that's what you want to do. All right, then you want to speak. But in terms of now what I do, no, forget that. Right? Cut that part off. Just I want to be a speaker, period. Because you don't want to do what I do. You want to create something that's never been seen before, right? See, like I'm when I was on the come up, I'm looking at Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. That was my only role model in the education space. But I didn't want to do what he did. He did what he did. He was a speaker, he's a consultant, but in terms of the specificity of his work, no, that's not what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to do something that's very unique, that's very me, and then I build that into something. So that person that's looking for their why, that's looking for their purpose, that's looking for their because, that's looking for their reason, find it, but don't necessarily try to be somebody else.
Yes.
Be you. See how you could take, because we all borrow and steal from everybody.
Right.
So see how you could take from him and her and him and her, and now create something very unique unto you, that it is you. Because it's like there's this thing, what's that thing called? Soul source letter. So every now and then, for those of you that may not be familiar with a soul source letter, and when I say soul, SOLE, they'll say, can you produce a soul source letter? Soul source letter means that nobody else can come in here and do what I do. And so let's say, for example, they're asking me to do a topic that I created called closing the attitude gap, right? Well, the fact of the matter is there is nobody else that can do that workshop quite like me, because I invented it. It came out of my imagination, right? So therefore, I'll write a sole source letter, meaning that they can't go out for bid and get the lowest bidder to do closing the attitude gap, because I'm the author of it, right? I'm the founder of it. I'm the creator of it. So that sole source letter says that. So you want to create a space for yourself where nobody else on the planet can quite do what you do. You know, it's let me get this to somebody out there. Somebody might be able to use this. I was in Portland, Oregon in approximately 2016. And I was there as a featured speaker. The great Dr. Pedro Noguero was the keynote speaker. So we on Pacific time. I'm an East Coast guy, and I don't have to be there until about 10 o'clock to do my featured presentation, which is a breakout session. Pedro, he was scheduled to do the keynote at 8. So I get a call about 5 a.m. Pedro missed his flight, and he said to ask you to fill in for him as the keynote. Now, I know all them people came to Portland to hear Pedro, and I can't speak on Pedro's topics because we don't speak on the same thing. So I get there, and the MC said, while I'm sitting there, Dr. Noguero missed this flight. Now, you know what the audience did. It's just a collective, oh. And I sat there, I'm like, man, right? So now, and you know, this is like 2015, 16. My name is not what it is now in terms of the public. So now I get up on that stage after they read my bio. And I said, I heard y'all say, oh, I heard you. That's the first thing that came out of my mouth. I said, but I got something for you. I ain't trying to be Pedro. I said, let me get up here and just be Principal Kafele. They didn't come to hear me be a keynoter, but let me give them Principal Kafele. Man, them folks gave me a standing ovation, man. And see, and then when Pedro came, he said, I knew you could do that for me. That's why I asked you to be up there. So the point is, you got to be able to be you. But some of us, you got to find you. Some there are folks in our world, you haven't found you. You think you know who you are, but you haven't dug deep because you so detached. I mean, you so attached. Your phone, your music, your friends, your family, your pet, your whatever.
But sometimes it's not even that, Principal Kafele. We're afraid of what may come out. Something like we literally have to be real with ourselves. Like we have to, like I say all the time when I talk, you're the common denominator. Like stop that. Stop that. Like be honest. I always find, well, you always find it. How do you always attract a certain male or a certain partner? How do you always find yourself in certain situations? You are your common denominator. So you are like the 5 people closest to you. So what are you saying about you? Like the one thing that I tell people, being you is beautiful, right? Because nobody can be you. That's the only superpower we each have, is that we're ourselves. And to your point, you know, I've talked to you about this so many times, Principal Kafele. I just hate when people do things because I did it. Like, don't go chase a doctorate because Dr. Chester got one. My doctorate was free. Like I didn't pay. I'm not $100,000 in debt getting a doctorate, and I didn't get my doctorate to validate myself. I got my doctorate because of the route that I thought I was going to be going in sport management, right? And so many times we get so distracted from our purpose because I go back to that comparing and contrasting. We don't stay in our lane. Like you talked about, your lane is narrow, and I talked about that the other night. So often we just got this. We just we switching lanes, and you're doing too much. Just be still. Be still. Sit down. Get centered. Get grounded. Be honest about who you are, whose you are, what you are. And like I said, when I wrote my statement, like people will be in organizations and working in things, and why are you doing those things? If those things aren't a part of your passion and your purpose, like I tell people, oh, why did you play as Delta? I was a Delta before I was a Delta. Everything that Delta signifies, scholarship, sisterhood, and service, I do that. That's who I am. And so it was easy for me to select a sorority. But we have people that select sororities because my friend is in a sorority. And then when you don't make it the first time, you don't try anymore. You go join another sorority because that was not you. When I'm a part of organizations, I have people that, oh, they didn't like what you said, Dr. Chester, because I told the truth, and they drop off. But that tells me that your purpose is not my purpose. Like if your purpose were to help the people that we're helping with that organization, you wouldn't leave.
Yeah.
because it would be bigger than me, right? And so and when you woke like I'm woke, Principal Kafele, it's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard because you see through people, and you see their hearts, and you see their intentions, and it's difficult sometimes to walk in that, because the one thing that I know about me innately, I come from a pure place. I don't come from a place of competition. I don't come from a place of comparison. I
Yeah.
don't come from a place of trying to be better. I honestly always come from a place of trying to help,
Yeah.
trying to better a situation. And so, and I'm speaking now mostly to my Black women,
Hmm.
because we have a real big problem with a lot of this. If Black women would just understand our power individually, and then understand our power collectively, there is so much that we would accomplish for
Yeah.
our communities, for our families, our workplaces, our communities, and ultimately this nation.
Yeah. In a short period
Sorry,
of
y'all, I
time.
had to say it. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. In a short period of time, too. So let me ask you this. You know, I think it's safe to assume that within our goals, within our purpose, I think that life, just in terms of some of the hands that it deals us, we can lose our way. Doesn't have to be for a long time, but we can certainly lose our way because life happens every day. So my question to you, and you'll probably flip it back at me. What do you do when you lose your way? How do you get back on course as relates to your purpose?
That is such a great question. When I lose my way, is like you said. So that big thing, I always go back to my why, right? If my why is something that's not really grounded in who and what I am, it's going to be easy for me to stay off that path. When I wander off that path, if it's truly not my true why, let's just say I just said I like helping people, right? I say that. But when you look at my life's work, that's not what you see that I do, right? What you see that I do is I try to capitalize off of anything that I'm doing. So the first time that I get off that path, if that is truly not my purpose, and that's truly not who I am and what I am, it's going to be easy to stay off of it. But for me, because that's truly who I am innately, like I'm drawn back to it. I may have to go off and restore and and lick my wounds and rest or do whatever it takes. But because that who I am, it's like a magnet. I'm going to be pulled back into that space.
Yeah.
I'm going to be pulled back into. I have been, traumatized by people, giving people everything and not receiving anything in return. And I always like, oh, I've learned my lesson. I'm never going to do it again. And I'm always right back in that space. I'm
Yeah.
always giving because that is innately who I am. And so to answer that is, I may go off, I reflect, I sometimes I have to think about, okay, what were my expectations? Sometimes I realize that my expectations are too great for other people,
Hmm.
and I have to learn how not to have such great expectations for others. But at the end of the day, my why always brings me back to my path.
I love it, and that's the go-to, the why. Let me ask the audience, folks out there who are live with us, folks who will see us later on video. What do you do when you lose your way? And I bet you most of us during the pandemic, to one extent or another, we lost our way. It may not have been long term. You may have figured it out. I think that, I lost my way initially, but then when I figured out Zoom, then I had a great year. I made this thing work for me, right? But I had to figure it out. So I'm just asking you all, what do you how do you get back on course when you lose your way? And I'm not confining that to your professional world, your relationship world, your parenting world, your friendship world, right? Your whatever world. When you lose your way, how do you get back to that path? Right? So when I think about me, my answer is really identical to yours. I got this expression that I use often. I say, when one loses their way, that which was their passion typically becomes their work, right? When we're talking about the professional space. Because see, like what you do, I'm gonna make the assumption, and what I do, this is not work. When I'm somewhere on the road speaking to an audience, unless I'm in a hostile room, which is few and far between, I'm not working. I'm having fun. And being that I had this love of basketball all my life, and we all get to a point in our lives when we realize, okay, you're not going to the NBA, but when you're younger, you think you're going. So now I'm not there. So I say that the work I did as a teacher, as a principal, as a speaker, it's the equivalent of shooting hoops, right? So I'm going outside every day just shooting hoops. I'm having fun. But there are situations where I lose my way in that space. And now this thing, which is my passion that I love, my joy, is becoming work, a burden. Like I don't want to go to the airport, all that kind of thing. So now when one loses their way and their passion becomes their work, now you got to go back and find your why, because it's probably because you lost it, right? As you lost your way, you simultaneously lost your why. And that could be, it may not be like, hours ago, days ago. It could be years ago. You've been stressed out for years. You've been stressed out over whatever your situation for decades, right? So again, the work, the relationship, it's I don't think I would be out of bounds to say some folks in a bad marriage for decades, right? So that marriage has been work for 20 years, for 30 years, whatever the case may be. So your why is way back when y'all met, right? When it was something very different. And maybe you have to go way back and find your why and figure out how to make this thing, whatever we're talking about, work. But the why, as you said, is right there at the core. It is right there at the center. And if you're trying to maneuver through life and you don't have that why to, on the one hand, guide you, but on the other hand, drive you, then you just, as Zig Ziglar said, a wandering generality, right? That's what you are, a wandering generality. You're just wandering all day, right? And praying and hoping and wishing, as opposed to building and creating and nurturing.
Like my big God sister says here, I have to take a breath and find my breath. I reset. It's like fasting, allowing your mind, body, and spirit to get back to what it loves, which will get you back on your path. And that's what I was talking about. When it's my why, like I can get frustrated with it, I can get tired of it, but at the end of the day, because it's my why and it's innate in me, I'm going to be pulled back to that path. I am. And so, yes, bam, Sora Tracy, that's right. Like
Hey,
Vicky says, that
hey,
small,
y'all,
still
Tracy
small voice,
and Donna, Vicky, everybody out there. I'm good to see y'all. Good to see
right?
you.
Guide to the next steps. You just have to keep going. Patricia says, not all who wander are lost. So
Yeah.
you can elaborate on that for us if you want to, Miss Patricia. Sora Patricia. Right?
so
Build
so
and create. Miss Donna says build and create because you said that, right? But
yeah,
if that's not what sometimes is that your purpose? Everyone's purpose is not to build and create.
yeah,
Again, you have to be honest about what your purpose is. What is your why? Is
yeah,
your why monetarily driven? I tell people all the time that when a lot of us, we have whys, Principal Kafele, that are externally driven, and
yeah,
anything that's externally driven, it's going to run out of steam, right? And that's what I mean by comparing and contrasting. I was telling a colleague of mine the other day, we were on the phone and we were laughing because I was saying, listen, I was telling her that a certain thing was going to happen. Because when you're doing it out of hatred or you're doing it out of competitiveness and proving someone wrong, you're going to run out of steam because that's not your purpose and that's not your passion.
yeah.
And so always remember that if you're externally driven, it's going to run out of steam.
It's gonna run out of steam. I think the ultimate goal in life is just in internal happiness, right? And I tell people, like I told Tommy Mabry the other day, and he couldn't believe it. We were talking off camera, because I said on camera, I haven't owned a car in, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years. It's been a long time since I've owned a car,
Hmm.
and it's not because I can't afford a car.
Oh, we know that.
It's yeah, it's because I don't need one. But see, people have different reasons for getting not only getting a car, but the type of car they
Luxury.
have.
Yes,
Yeah,
the luxury
yeah,
car.
yeah. And it's like, my wife has her vehicle and I'll borrow it when need be. But other than that, I'm an Uber guy. And because when I'm home, like now, I don't go anywhere because my happiness comes from sitting on this couch over here. That's that's my happiness. I don't need a whole lot to be happy. And I think that's why I can be in those hotels and not get bored because I don't need a whole lot. So when you go to the airport, I'm not going to pay those parking fees. So I take an Uber. Even if I had a car, I wouldn't leave it there. I used to in the old days, and then you fly back and you're paying $200 in parking. So I said, man, that's eating up my fee. So let me rethink that. And then, so one day I'll get a car. But for now,
But it's because what we're saying, you're not driven by other people's
yeah,
definitions of, oh, you should drive, oh, you make that kind of money. You need to be representing that kind of money with this type of car.
right.
Um, and
People
and
feel I should have a Benz and a
yeah,
BMW and all. I hear it
because
all the time.
you should pull up and that's what you should pull up in. Yeah, I know it's that way. I wanted to Miss Karen, she's a good colleague of mine as well. Something she said big is constructively criticizing your own intentions to
Yeah,
reset. A lot
that's
of
right.
times, we play victim. It's everybody and everything fault. We had no part in it. So you do have to constructively sometimes criticize your own intentions and what is going on, right?
Yeah,
Um, and we definitely all, Team Miss Tina, should be reestablishing ourselves with our spiritual source. Definitely.
yeah,
Um,
that matters. Whatever it is, that matters.
yes.
Yep. Reconnect. My purpose is to reconnect people to source, African sacred science and spirituality. Love it. Love it. I wander to rediscover, not just to discover. I like that distinction. Wandering gives me a chance to think and refresh. Patricia, I want to agree with you on that. Going back to the comment that you made about wandering. Yeah, I do a lot of wandering. But it's intentional wandering. And I think that's what you were referring to as well. I could there are places like over the summer when the weather was warmer, I'm up here in Jersey. There's a mall, a little small mall, and my gym is in the mall, and it's about a mile and a half from here. And in the summer, I'd walk to the gym, then exercise in the gym, and then walk home from the gym after doing the hour and some change of exercise. And that gave me a chance to wander and just think and process a variety of different things because I didn't have music on, podcasts on, nothing on. It's just me doing that long walk back home across this highway and all that kind of stuff. And it's constructive wandering. But the problem is when that wandering is not
It's
constructive.
not constructive or intentional. It's
Yeah,
just
you just wandering the past time away, right? That's when it becomes problematic. So let me throw this at you, Dr. Chester. A lot of folks staying consistent with this whole Nia purpose. A lot of folks, when we say the why, they say, "What are you about? What's your why? What's your reason? What is your purpose?" And someone responds. And then somewhere along the way in my journey of playing with words, this word mission versus this word purpose. And as I got deeper into the meaning of mission and my own mission, I said, sometimes I feel like I'm using this word purpose incorrectly for me. Here, let me tell you what I mean by that. My in terms of my work outside of that why I gave you. Now let me narrow that a little bit more. I had this focus on my guys that was much more intense than my young ladies, right? Because I'm a young man, because I'm a man, and because of my own challenges growing up being raised by my mother, right? So I had this laser like focus on the young men, but they were my mission, right? So and I would tell that to people. I said these young men are my mission. Where my purpose comes in is because of the eye test, but also just the data that's out there, right? On young men of black young men. I said so the data became my reason, right? Why I needed to fulfill this mission, right? So now everything that I used to say was my why became no, my mission, and my why was the explanation as to why the mission was important, if you follow me, right? So I'm throwing that at you. Is there a distinction in terms of your journey between your personal mission and your personal purpose?
There is for me when you say that. So again, because what I know that my purpose is to connect. I'm a
Mhm.
convener, a connector, and it is to learn and to share what I've learned. I think my mission, if you ask me what my mission was, it is to, and this sounds crazy, but it is to make sure that we are intentional about our connectivity, and it's bettering our community. It's bettering, and that community for me that I've chosen is education, and us having housing, us understanding that generational wealth, that access to housing is the first step to generational wealth. And
Mhm.
so those two things for me are my missions. When I think about Nia, to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. When I look at real estate, okay, so here I am. I'm the president of the local board chapter here for NAREB. When I talked about it, people like, oh, we never heard of realtors. Well, that goal is to help everyone understand that you can own a home. Why can't you? It may just take longer. Everyone can take that path to home ownership. Your path to home ownership may just be different from mine. It
Yeah.
may take me 3 months, but it may take you a year, but you still can own a home. When it comes to Black Educators Rock, my mission is for us to understand our individual greatness and to figure out to make that a collective vocation to build and develop our community for children,
Yeah.
because our children are suffering. Our children are suffering because of us. I was a child that suffered. Like I said, people don't like people like, why do you like Dr. Chester? Y'all don't know Melissa. Melissa was raised in hell.
Hmm.
Melissa came from a 17-year-old single parent. Melissa's story is one of no, just it's rough. And when I see children and I'm listening to children, I'm walking with children, I'm talking to children. I wasn't the child that acted out belligerently or that cussed out teachers, etc. I was a child who, for whatever reason, I always say it had to be God ordained. I always knew that education was going to be my way out.
Hmm.
That I'm not going to be like my mom, and I'm not going to be the third generation in Soul City Projects like I see all my friends. Like, here it is. We grew up here. Now you're here. Now your children's children are here. I wasn't going to be that. I knew that education was my way out. And so for me, my mission is to make sure that we all understand our responsibility towards our children. And I don't know. I just feel like Black Educators Rock. Like I said, I didn't even birth that baby. That baby was given to me to raise. But
Yeah.
I know the power of Black Educators Rock because I know the power of the individuals who are a part of Black Educators Rock and those who are not. And so I think that my mission is to help to leave our children in a better place, be that through housing, access through housing, or better education and better support systems within education. Those are my two that I know are in me. And no matter which way I go, I always come back to those two things.
Love it. Love it. Let me and I see it's getting late, but let me throw another question at the audience. Um Folks, what is the connection between your purpose and your vision? Right? What is that connection? What is that relationship? And I guess the sub question would be, do you have a personal vision? Do you have a collective vision, a vision for Black people? But there's you within the people. So your personal vision, do you possess a personal vision? Like who do you see yourself becoming or evolving into, let's say over the course of 2023, over the course of the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? And how does your why, your purpose, drive that? Right? Because there is a symbiotic relationship between the two. So, how is your purpose driving the vision? Or one may say, how is the vision driving the purpose, right? Depending on how you look at it, right? Because because either one can drive the other, right? But what is that relationship? So I'll throw that question at you, Dr. Chester. What is the relationship between your vision and your purpose?
The relationship between it. That's a hard one for me, Principal Kafele. I guess I just go back to what I was just saying. So the relationship is I want to lessen the number of children who felt the way I felt growing up, right? A product of molestation. I mean, there is so much in my background. I
Yeah,
didn't have a teacher when we were talking, like I laughed about it, but I didn't have a teacher. There was only one teacher that I can think of that said something positive to me. And it was because I was starting to go down the wrong track in the sixth grade. So in Daytona, where I grew up at, we had K through six, 7 through 9, and 10 through 12. We had junior high, right?
yeah,
And K, which I think is the best model, straight up. I think K through 6, 7 through 9, and 10 through 12. I don't know why we got away from that system,
yeah.
but
I love it too.
that is developmentally where children should be.
It's all
And
I
so
know.
that as a sixth
Yeah,
grader, I was getting loud and starting to curse because I was trying to get some identity and find. And she pulled me to the side, a black female teacher, the only one she wasn't my teacher. She was the only one of the only ones in that school, though, that elementary. Miss Wright, 6 foot tall, chocolate woman I'll never forget. She was the one responsible for paddling everybody, Principal Kafele, because she could bring a paddle. Y'all don't even remember those days.
Mhm.
Miss Wright. And Miss
Wow.
Wright told me, she said, "Come here, Melissa." She said, "You know, I watch you and you're a beautiful, smart young girl." And she said, "You don't have to always be seen. You don't have to always be heard, just be seen." And she talked to me about not following those girls that I was following because she said, "You have a different path than they have." And she's the only one that ever spoke to me in that way. And it only took her to do that one time for me to change my path. But just think if there had been more than just that one teacher to say something to me,
Mm,
or how many other young ladies needed to hear something like that. And so for me, the relationship is I just want to help our babies. Like I told you, Principal Kafele, when I got into Black Educators Rock, it was like, oh, this Facebook girl, this cute. Wait a minute, look how many people talking about our babies. Like,
yeah, yeah,
and you was like, yeah, we got to change that culture. I'm like, oh, I was not ready. That was not what I thought I was going to be doing with Black Educators Rock. And
mhm,
so I just think that relationship for me is I got to leave a better environment for my babies and
yeah,
not just my biological babies,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
My babies, because they're us. We have done a poor job of passing the baton.
yeah,
When everybody want to talk about all these problems that our youth have, that's on us. Point the finger, three hitting you back in the chest. If
yeah.
these kids are belligerent and disrespectful, they didn't wake up that way. Oh,
Right.
they mamas, they daddies. A lot of us didn't have mamas and daddies. My daddy wasn't in my life. My mother was a 17-year-old high school dropout. My mama smoked weed. My mama drank. My mama partied. But I turned out the way I did because of a village.
Mm,
And so let's not pretend like things today are so different than what they were in the past.
yeah,
And we have to get back to a collective vocation of building and developing our community. We have become so singular minded as Black people. All we care about is either me or the people immediately in my family. And that's immediate. That ain't even your generations. That's
yeah.
just your immediate family.
Hmm.
And so that is what it is for me. I just desire to see us awaken and understand how much better our communities will be once we understand who we are as a people. And
Yeah.
so that would be it for me. That was a lot, but that's what it
No,
is.
that's good stuff. And again, that collective vocation, that's the whole definition is powerful, to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people. And there's that word, restore our people to their traditional greatness. Let's go ahead and read that one.
She says her experience of growing up in poverty and in the projects angers her as a mother and an educator to ensure children have a chance at a better future.
Yeah,
She says relationship between your vision and purpose has to be there.
yeah,
Um, my Sora Tracy says her vision defines her purpose because she's sowing seeds into girls to be the voice.
yeah.
Seeds that take time to grow, but I have a responsibility to plant those visions in the girls.
And do me before you go to this one, put Tracy back and see, like, you and I have known Tracy for a long time. I've known I knew Tracy's work before I knew Tracy. And she's that voice. When we talk about empowering young ladies, empowering girls. She, she she's another one with one of those real laser focus, right? That this is what she does. We spoke together at a school in East St. Louis. It was an empowering day experience for the two of us. We weren't in the same room. She was in a room with just the girls. This is a high school, charter high school in East St. Louis, and I was with the guys all day, all morning, and it was just a powerful thing. I didn't get to see her speak, but I got to see the remnants of what she did. And she's got that laser sharp focus that this is what I do, as far as these young ladies. But the vision, she doesn't even have to articulate the vision. It's evident what her vision is as it relates to the young ladies, right? So, she's just doing great work.
Yes,
Shout
and I
out
actually
to
met her through you, and I was, excited to meet her, like you said, because she's taking care of our girls. She's realized that my purpose, my mission is our girls, and I don't think it's just young Black girls. I think it's girls in general. And so that is what her vision is. She's not looking at anybody else and say, "Oh, I think I should do that."
right.
Like you said, she's very laser focused about what she does,
Yep.
and so Bridges Enterprise says being a better me to help support my students who come from low socioeconomic backgrounds, and not only let them know that there is a way out, but to help them and show them the way to better themselves and their families, even at 8 and 9 years old.
Yeah.
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 So, I mean, yeah, it's never ever too early to let our children know that they matter and that they are the captains of their fate, right?
Yep.
That their trajectory is just based on them, not their environments. So we totally agree, harvest times, but the seed must be planted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that is on us, Miss Tracina. He said his vision is to keep moving closer to what he would like to see in his family and in the Black community.
Yeah. That's right.
She says this is
Appreciate that, Tracy. Yeah. Yeah. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, Donna. Yeah. Principal Doc McKeever Jeter in the building.
Miss Sora Patricia said last night she asked, "Where is the village?"
Yeah, and that's
Remember, I
a
answered
good
that, Miss
question.
Sora Patricia. I told you, like now we know we may not have the traditional village where it's our neighborhood, it's the neighborhood, because a lot of us, we're not in those types of neighborhoods anymore. But that village, we have to recreate the village. The village may be virtual. The village may be, 100 miles away, 1,000 miles away, but we have to make sure that our children have a village. I have a cousin in Daytona, and she does such a great job of that with her children. Like she handpicked their village, and she called each of us and said, "Hey, you're in Hannah's village. You're in Hannah's village." And so she's put together for each of her children their own village of aunties and uncles and big brothers and big sisters. So we have to be intentional about that sometimes, because we know that our traditional village may not be there. So great question. Great question.
Yeah, great question.
Vicky, you said your vision is to become a difference maker, to model what is good, promote humanity, to be what is needed, and encourage others to be their best selves. Love isn't love until we give it away. I like that, Miss Donna.
Yeah.
I was just telling someone today, I think they had so much self-love. I don't know how they're going to love anybody else. I'm like, your self-love is so, do you have the capacity to love anyone else? And so I like that. Love isn't love until we give it away. I like that. Mr. Alexander says it's also important that we learn from other communities of minorities where they have thrived off of the empowerment of unified economics. That's completely concur.
Yeah.
And that's what we're saying. We've done it, though. We don't even have to learn from other minorities. We can learn from ourselves and look at Tulsa and other examples that we've had in our own examples, right?
We have blueprints.
Yeah, we have blueprints. We just have to re-establish those things. Thank you.
And before you read Tina, see, sometimes the blueprint, they'll accuse that of being critical race theory, right? So then folks are afraid to teach the blueprint, right? So but we got to rise above that too.
Let's see. She says we got us thinking and reflecting. We are the village. That's right, Miss Vicky. We're the village.
We are.
We have to rethink and reimagine the village. And I think Who? Because Principal Kafele mentioned y'all. If you have never heard of Dr. Terrell Strayhorn, now
Yeah.
he's not a K-12, he's in higher ed. But when I say powerful, powerful. And he was the first person that talked about that. Because when we were talking about Black educators or our schools, and he said, well, Dr. Chester, they may not be the four walls. We may have to think bigger than just the four walls. And that's what got me to thinking about that village may not be the traditional village,
Yeah.
right? We have to create our own villages because,
Yeah.
again, we are what we're looking for. We've been saying this for 5 nights, and it does not change tonight. Our answers, Mr. Alexander, are within our own culture. It's within each of us. We just have to, again, find a way to understand what this means, the collective vocation. So again, Principal Kafele has asked us questions. We've asked you guys about individually, but what are you doing to contribute to the collective vocation of building and developing of community in order to restore our people? And Principal Kafele, I'm about to be you for a minute. Educators in those schools.
Yeah.
When you're in those schools and you're in difficult settings, how are you going to implement the concept of Nia? Because Miss Donna, you said about love. Love isn't love until you give it away. How are you going to be able to show that love when you have difficult staff members, difficult peers that you work with, difficult students? I've often said that the issues that we have in classrooms, I speak more to the issues of like students than I do with peers. I think Principal Kafele is better about that, but it's because we have become so, the hierarchy is important. And I tell everybody that our young people don't respect the hierarchy, but it's because we have not taught them to, right? Yeah. It's not them, it's us. But we're so competitive with children. I don't know if I was just watching the other day where this professor, this young lady got arrested at Winston-Salem.
Yeah, I saw it.
And, my husband and I, in full transparency, we were on the opposite side. He was like, oh, when that teacher, I said, listen, that's great. Because that's how we were taught. Oh, you shut up. This generation don't do that. That's what we believe. If she told you to leave out of the classroom, I said, but now that baby want to know, well, show me in the classroom rules, show me in the university rules why I have to leave just because you said it. What have I broken? What have I done wrong? And at some point, like I told him, I'm just not going to argue with the student. I'm not going to tongue wrestle with you. If she, okay, sweet, by all means, enjoy. Just stay right here. But I just ask that you be quiet and respect what's going on in the learning environment.
Yeah.
Y'all will get into arguments with these babies. Yeah. Y'all will be, I don't know. Y'all talk about them like they grown people. I saw it in Black Educators Rock in the group with 150,000. And some of you all got banned. A lot of people got banned. And then we went to where we had to approve comments, because one is not about self-promotion. If you're out here doing some stuff, hey, join the organization first. You want to promote your organization, join ours first. It's amazing to me, Principal Kafele, who people will come into the space only to promote themselves and what they have going, and you have not promoted what we have at all.
Yeah.
Our mindsets have become so singular. I go right back to that. Like it's all about me.
Yep.
And I'm gonna shut this student down. I'm gonna show her or him in his classroom who the boss is, and it's so counterproductive.
Yep.
So counterproductive.
Yeah. Let me throw one more at the audience. And keep this definition up real quick. I want to close. If you're ready to close, I wanted to just give this one more question with this definition: to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. So my question is, when you think about, and I'm talking about to the audience now, when you think about the work that you will be doing for the next calendar year, starting January 1, or maybe starting tomorrow as the bridge to January 1, how, and that's the key word, how will you make this definition a part of your repertoire, right? How will you make this definition a part of your repertoire? Because on the one hand, yes, we want to grow as individuals. We want to evolve as individuals. But what will it be about your work that goes beyond just you? How will you make that definition a part of your reality? So that when you come back the next year's Nia, on December 30th, will you be able to reflect back on the year and say, yes, I put in the work, and that definition has become a part of me. It's been infused in me. Right. So that's just wanted to throw that at y'all. Those that are on with us live, those who will see the video later, just wanted to throw that at you. Let me see Central Hicks say, good evening, Central. As an AP, my vision has become the instructional leader where teachers are not afraid to make mistakes. I love it. When I am in the room because they know that I am there to make them better. Hey, Central, let me stay there for a hot second. That is what an ideal situation for a teacher to be in when you're not coming into the room as a gotcha guy, but
Yes.
you coming into the room to help that teacher to grow to be the best possible teacher that he or she can be. Because when that teacher is up here, that means the children win. Right. So that's how you make it happen. Good stuff. Tonight is truly making us delve into ourselves and making us slow down. I love it. I love it. Go ahead, you can read that.
It says when she was in the classroom, she focused on her students and their future and not just getting them from 7th to 8th grade. I helped them to see past the present so that they could also rise above challenges in school to be prepared for the future.
Love it.
Thank you, Miss Dot. We want you. We always need those those people who have been in the trenches and who are still dedicated and devoted. So we welcome you.
And you need it because you're a legend. So you got a lot. Everybody knows that work you put in over them years.
You are, Miss Donna, and we love you. He says Bridges Enterprise, I'm not going to assume it's a he, getting the parents, the neighborhood, community activity involved in the school and buy into strengthening the community as a collective. It is going to take getting in the trenches, doing the work, learn the kids, and how to help students and parents grow collectively. Yes, yes, yes. Bridges Enterprise. I'm always surprised at how we don't involve like businesses and organizations that surround our schools. I don't know. That there's a disconnect there where we need for them to adopt their neighborhood schools. There should be some type of national model that's set up for that.
Yeah.
Speak life into dark situations, provide support that is needed, and people can hear and consider different perspectives. Dr. Sherry says that also comes from frequently visiting classrooms so that teachers and students know I'm there to support them.
Yeah, Dr. Poe, you nailed it. If there's no culture, as you know from what you wrote, if there's no culture in place for the administrators, the school leaders to frequently visit classrooms, then yeah, it's shocking when they walk in and it creates anxiety, as you know. But when there's a culture there that this is what we do, we're here to make you phenomenal, we're here to make you great, then there's a higher probability that teachers going to welcome the presence of the leadership in those classrooms. I love it.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. You know I'll be reaching out. She says, we've been conditioned to believe that as Black people, our culture has nothing of value to add.
Right.
It didn't start as slavery. That is one thing that we surely have to make sure they understand, Ufedo. You are so right with that one. He says, how? In Nguzo
Saba. That's it. Them 7 principles are powerful.
Yes, and Sora Tracy says, Nia, nurturing inner awareness. Yeah. I must be transparent and authentic and know that I too am imperfect, but willing to grow and listen to our girls, yet demonstrating what mentoring looks like. And Miss Donna, you most certainly will meet all of us face to face in July. We are affirming that and knowing that God is going to definitely be with us and make sure we're all there together. Central, another one of my recent faves. I haven't known him long, but I do love his passion for education. Yeah. It is my responsibility to continue to make sure that our students and staff see themselves and understand that we are truly better together. I will be a voice in the admin meetings and look for innovative ways to promote success. I'm so glad you said that, Central. I don't know why, because again, I'm not K-12, but why is there this, Principal Kafele, you and Central and others can answer, that competition from educators and all educators, but teachers and administration?
That's right.
Because that, again, if we're practicing Kwanzaa, we're practicing that we can dispel a lot of that. We can minimize and mitigate a lot of that.
And
Because
toward
what
minimizing it, leadership matters exponentially.
leadership
So
matters,
it's
period.
that culture that we nurture in the building.
Yes, love attracts. If you are love, you will attract love. Love is your ability to know oneness with all. Yes, yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And she says she never understood that we are on the same team.
Yeah, same team, but you got schools where they're not on the same team, and I see it. I see it up
Yes,
close.
and how? But how do we? But you said that starts with leadership.
That's leadership. Leadership is, as I always say, leadership is everything. It's everything.
Mm. But can it be? Can it be dealt with despite that type of leadership?
It can, but that leadership, if the leadership is deficient, if the leadership is toxic, and the teachers are working amongst themselves to create a culture that's conducive to high academic performance, but if that leadership is still lurking as is, it's always going to be problematic, right? It doesn't mean that those teachers can't come together in the name of Harambe and build together, but that leadership is still there, right? And so that leadership role is so key in terms of everything else that flows within that building. It's
And I
just
gotta agree with Central. Then sometimes it's a made up construct to pit them against each other. It
sure.
provides an us versus them narrative, and we got to figure out how to dispel it.
Yeah. Yep. Because it exists. Let me read that. It says, only Black administrator at my school. I'm the voice for the voiceless and speak for our minority students. They know I lead with love. Hey, Dr. Poe, it's that's refreshing to read and to hear, because there are some of us, and I understand it, but it's still a reality that there's some of us who are intimidated about being that voice when they're in those white spaces that you're evidently in, if you're the only Black administrator in the school. So it's good that you figured out a way to strategically use your voice and not have to worry about your job, right? Because people talk to me privately, and they're looking for advice on how, when I'm a minority in my school, the Black children are a minority in my school, but I still want to ensure that they are being treated equitably within the school. And so I give that advice, but it's refreshing to hear or to read what you said in terms of how you move within your school for those students.
We must be less concerned with winning and be more concerned with creating and sharing wisdom with each other and our babies.
Yeah.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
that's the school environment, but I want us to take that and also be that in our communities as well. Be that in our immediate communities and our larger communities, because we have everything that we're looking for within us and within our grasp. And I am so looking forward to the day where these communities look different. We have to stop looking for other people to care more about us than we care about ourselves.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, I still haven't figured out how we get mad at others when they don't provide certain things and they're not giving us certain resources, but we're not providing them for ourselves either.
Mhm.
So we have to make sure we
Yeah.
are working towards that.
Yeah.
As a parent, I've seen the most progress when teachers and parents are in true partnership to do what's right for our children, invest in our schools with time and money. Yes, so we can move mountains. And that's
Yep.
what I was saying earlier. We got to get more community engagement.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said you said that we needed to reflect this week. This conversation got me looking at every mirror in my house. He says our communities are our first schools, Miss Latanya said. The community teaches values, morals, love long before we go to schools. Yes,
That's right.
that's right. So hopefully you
First
got
schools.
something out of Nia tonight, right?
Yeah.
5 days down, only 2 more to go. Principal Kafele, what would you like to say to sum up Nia? What are your
Yeah.
last and parting words?
Yeah. I'm first and foremost just glad everybody was here, and we had a good conversation. We engaged you all, and that was a good thing. So as far as my parting words about Nia, I just want to remind you, and you know this, but I'm gonna remind you that there will be some difficult days. There's some difficult days waiting for you, right? There's some overwhelming days waiting for you. There's some in the month of January. There's some days that will have you considering leaving the profession or asking yourself why I got into this profession. Those days are coming, right? You know, we can be as optimistic as we want to be about the future, and this is just going to be so much better. But those difficult days are always going to emerge. So I say to you, those are the times that you've really got to clutch your sense of purpose and hold it tight to the vest, right? So, but not when it occurs. You got to anticipate it. You got to anticipate there are going to be some rough days. So as you anticipate that these rough days, these rough stretches, these rough patches are going to arise, never ever leave your home without your purpose. I said it during Kuji Chagalia Day that, you know, I had an experience where I went to the airport and forgot my ID. And I had a keynote to do the next morning in New Orleans. And I begged the TSA agent to let me through. And I'm telling him literally why I needed to go. He you know, they ain't care. So I didn't go, and I never got invited to speak there again. So when I was driving home, the word purpose jumped into my mind. And I said, wow, leaving your home without your purpose is equivalent to leaving your home to fly without your ID. There will be no flying that day. See, so if you leave home without a purpose, you can't soar because you haven't defined yourself. And as I said during Kuji Chagalia Day, you go to a dictionary or a dictionary app and look up a word, and there's going to be a definition, a meaning. But imagine, if you will, it'll never happen, but imagine there was no definition next to the word. That means that's not a word. But it also means that if it was a word, it has no meaning. It's just a blank space. So imagine walking into your role, whatever your role may be, whether it be educator or whatever, but you haven't defined yourself and therefore have no definition. That means you're walking into your space meaningless. You got nothing to define why you're there. See, I love walking into a school. You know, most of my time in school is spent with principals more than and assistant principals more than it is with the teachers. So
Right.
I love walking into a school and watching the leader. And as I watch the leader, I can determine definition just on their movement. I don't have to ask them because
Hmm.
their movement lays it out. Their movement defines who they are, the way they go about their business every day. So imagine you don't even have the movement. You just in there like just let's see what happens, right? Like let's see what the day brings. I never bring that attitude to life. Not just my work, but my life. Let's see what the day brings. I ain't waiting for no day. I'm going at the day. That's a difference, right? So that's my part in words. Just make sure that your purpose is driving you along with your vision and along with your mission.
Like he said, own the day or the day will own you. And
Yeah,
so
that's right.
just to piggyback on what he said, guys, listen, like there's going to be difficulties, but understand that we've said this the last few days, but I'm going to reiterate it. What you focus on grows, and what grows is what you focus on.
Yeah.
There's going to be negativity. There's going to be naysayers, haters. There are going to be people, deflectors, people who, all of that's going to be out there. Your haters and naysayers are inevitable, but you are to be grounded in those people that support you, that are cheering for you, that are praying for you, and find your village, find your supporters. And if they're not within your building, they're not in your district, create your own village because you're going to need support. You're going to need your village in order to continue to that collective vocation.
Yeah.
So I just challenge each of us just again to become centered, be honest about who we are, what our purpose is, and just understand that What you focus on grows, and what grows is what you focus on. So focus on your village. Focus on being better, doing better, and helping our communities to become better and to thrive. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm all ready to get on some more boards and do some more work after this
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
because we all have talents and treasures and time that we should be giving collectively to our communities, both locally and in our schools. And so, again, as Principal Kafele said, what are you going to be doing these next 365 days to contribute to the collective vocation of building and developing our community so that we can restore our people back to our traditional greatness? Happy
Beautiful.
Kwanzaa.
Happy Kwanzaa. Hey, real quick, I know you guys touched it last night, and just to have it on the video for archival purposes. We always a Kwanzaa program, and this is not a program, but a Kwanzaa program for anyone that's new to Kwanzaa is always closed with Harambe. I can't roll R, so but it would Harambe, right? That's the best I can do, like Karamu, right? So the Harambe, it would be the gathering of people, or if it was done at home with the family, and it's simply raising your hand, and I'll put it in the camera, but it would go way up, and you would pull down as if you were grabbing something. And what you're grabbing is unity, because Harambe is a call to unity. So you would put your hand up. I'll keep it here so you can see it, and you would pull down with vigor and say Harambe. And I'm not going to do the loud thing. I'm just going to give you that quick demo. And you would do it on the fifth day, meaning today, it would be 5 times Harambe, Harambe. So you do it the 5 times, and then the last one you would just hold it, Harambe, and everybody does it with power, and just hold that Harambe as long as you can, and then the program has come to its conclusion. But again, that word Harambe means the call to unity. That's what it is. Good
Yes.
stuff.
Harambe. Thank you guys for checking in,
Thank
and we
you.
look forward to seeing you tomorrow night and Sunday night. We're going to end on Sunday night, our last night, and we just hope again that you guys continue this. This is just for us to recenter so that we're doing this work every day. And we will be having a check-in at the Rock Conference, and we may even have a quarterly one before we get to the Rock Conference, because we want to help hold you accountable. As Ms. Vicky said, you got to have accountability partners. So you guys enjoy the rest of your night. And thank you so much again for joining us.